More now. Lee Doddridge is a security expert and joins us now from Cardiff with more analysis on this latest attack. Lee, thank you very much for your time. We heard there then that the suspect was known to police but not to security services. He was known for petty crimes. Can you just give us a rough profile of somebody, previous attacks, people who can carry out attacks like this?
I think it's very hard to give a sort of like a definitive profile. It's not unusual to find a criminal history in the background of a lot of the people that we've seen involved in this type of incident. It's the level of criminality would obviously dictate whether or not the person is then brought to the attention of intelligence services. If it's organised crime, they may well come up onto their radar. However, it's very hard to identify somebody who is just technically a petty criminal. Obviously, the main focus would have to be on, was this a directed or inspired attack? And if it was inspired, was it through online? Was it through some other local medium, which could indicate possibly more people in the area?
If we look back at France over the last 18 months or so, there have been a number of attacks. I suppose superficially it would be quite easily to criticise French security services. Is that a superficial analysis? Is that unfair?
I think it is. It would be unfair. I mean, obviously, France have undergone quite an unprecedented couple of years, really. If we look back to just the early start of last year with Charlie Hebdo, then obviously the larger attack in Paris that we saw. The French dealt with the Euros very well with the level of security they put in. I've got to say I'm highly surprised just listening to the previous comments that there was almost no police presence at all yesterday. If you think of the actual day for them, it's normally on any given year it would normally be the biggest event of the year. Having just come through the other side of the Euros, I would have expected France to have had a larger police presence at these sort of events. But it's easy to say those things in hindsight. You also have to bear in mind, and we witnessed some major events before, the amount of resources you have to use to police them once it is over. They do need time, and possibly they just didn't have enough resources to put out to these type of events.
You mentioned a few moments ago that France has seen sort of an unprecedented number of attacks in recent months. I suppose the question is then why? Why is it France that is being so heavily targeted at the moment? Are there socio-political reasons for this or geopolitical, do you think?
I think it's a combination of both. Obviously, France are part of the wider coalition that have obviously carrying out attacks around Syria and Iraq. But we also know historically, that they do have a very large Muslim population. And I'd be careful when I say that, because obviously there's only a very small element of that population that would form extremist views. Historically, there has been quite a community there, and we know just from recent reporting with through intelligence channels and people travelling from France, and in particular Nice, to join the war in Syria on behalf of ISIS, and obviously coming back in towards the area again. The combination of that and the fact that people will have French nationalities, they're an obvious choice for them, and they're part of mainland Europe, which is easier to attack than, say, the UK.
At this stage, obviously, we don't know whether this attack was inspired by or directly connected to any terror group, particularly Daesh. But across Europe, we are seeing somewhat of a rise of right-wing groups. I mean, Marine Le Pen, particularly in France. What I want to ask, I suppose, is this division in society creating extremes? Is this part of the tactic of the terrorists, do you think, in some way?
I think it's something that they'll be very mindful of, and obviously they'll be monitoring the rise on the extreme right wing. And interestingly, it was only 3 days ago the head of the French intelligence service was actually quoted in the media as saying that continued attacks is only going to push the extreme right wing to take more action. And quite boldly, he stated, he could see this pushing France into some form of civil war between the extreme right wing and extremists.
How likely do you think that is, Lee?
Well, I was quite shocked, if that's the right word. I think that was quite a very bold statement. He must have some intelligence and information to back that up, because that is quite a, I would say, almost scaremongering claim, if that's the right word to use. It will cause, obviously, I think, an upsurge in extremist activity. Just speaking to colleagues this morning, would this now push the French population to follow the suit of what the UK done and considering leaving, as we've done through Brexit, just to try and tighten up on their borders and prevent such attacks from happening? It is the method used last night. Wasn't a new method in the slightest. It's been around for over 10 years. So it's a relatively easy form of attack to conduct. And as we saw from last night, you only need one or possibly two individuals to create such devastation.
Okay, Lee Doddridge, a security expert in Cardiff, thank you very much for your time.